Recording in
Good afternoon. My name is Desiree Yaeger, and I'm here to talk to you about a low FODMAP journey to optimal gut health. Our primary audience for today is working women between the ages of 25 and 35 who experience gastrointestinal health issues such as irritable bowel syndrome, colitis, things like that, and are seeking nutrition-based solutions and interventions. Some of the background research that was conducted found that management of IBS requires a multifaceted approach, meaning that you need to incorporate counseling, you need to incorporate self-reflection, autonomy, things like that. The low FODMAP diet was found to provide significant improvement in gastrointestinal health. And then, of course, fiber intake is essential for managing symptoms, keeping that motility strong. Some interventions that were found to be helpful were the structured dietary counseling provided to participants, fiber-enriched foods, so adding bread and muesli increased bowel movement significantly. Pre-prepared meals for convenience, which cause significantly lower gastrointestinal symptom scores. We conducted a needs assessment for this project. It's important to know that these kinds of interventions would be suitable for young professionals with IBS. The research shows that gastrointestinal disorders are prevalent among women, often influenced by lifestyle factors such as diet, stress, hormonal changes, which all kind of provide this synergistic effect on our gut health. Dietary interventions such as the low FODMAP diet have been shown to provide some relief, but can be difficult to adhere to consistently, seeing that we are finding gaps in knowledge, education, and a lack of structured nutrition counseling. There is also difficulty in finding credible sources. So this intervention helps to provide tools and resources for that. The health belief model chosen for this intervention was one that helps to increase awareness and enhance motivation to change behavior. This helps to consider personal beliefs, perceived risks, benefits of dietary changes, and barriers to disease, which then helps us gauge our readiness to take action. Some major constructs that were relevant to this intervention were perceived susceptibility, perceived severity, perceived threat, perceived benefits, self-efficacy, and cues to action. So what is our overarching goal for this intervention? The goal was to promote the successful implementation of a low FODMAP diet while maintaining a balanced fiber intake, ultimately leading to a better system management of gastrointestinal disease, which then leads to a better quality of life as a young working professional. Just to review our learning objectives and activities, the main objective here is foundational knowledge. So some of the activities we chose to do were a low FODMAP meal prep game, which is allowing groups of 2 or more to be provided with low FODMAP foods and work together to put together different meals within a set of amount time. Low FODMAP taste testing. Participants will taste specific high fiber, low FODMAP foods such as quinoa or zucchini squash and provide ways they feel that they can incorporate these tasty items into their daily lives. Fiber-rich recipe challenge. So this was an activity that allowed participants to develop a FODMAP-friendly fiber-rich recipe and talk through the key benefits of the food items that they selected and how they will actually apply this recipe in real life. So to back things up, our pre-assessment for this was to have participants provide a food diary and talk about specific food items that cause those flare-ups and discomfort. And then they see if they can identify any of those trigger foods as high FODMAP items. And then our post-assessment was to create that final recipe that includes the low FODMAP foods that are high in fiber, but most importantly, works for their specific lifestyle. Second learning objective was the application. So some fun activities that were planned here were to have a room set up with high and low FODMAP food items that are high in fiber. All nutrition labels are provided to help with understanding on how to read them entirely, which then improves efficiency when you're grocery shopping and things like that. People will have to find as many low FODMAP items as they can within a specific amount of time. Another activity was the fiber smoothie bar. I know smoothies are a quick way to get a lot of nutrition all in one place. So I figured that this would be a great activity, which is something that is very popular among young working women. So these small groups would be able to blend up some smoothies using those low FODMAP ingredients, which helps show how they can have symptom relief on the go. Another activity for this application piece was participants having to create a full day of healthy meals using as many low FODMAP items as they can. After, be able to talk through how easy or challenging it was and ways that they can overcome that. So our pre-assessment here was just a fiber quiz to test their knowledge and see, what they did know previously about high fiber foods and maybe learn something new. And then have that takeaway of tools in their toolbox when they're grocery shopping. Post-assessment there was to have a high-level discussion about how easy or challenging it was to use the knowledge base to create those recipes and identify those trigger foods. Our last objective here is the integration piece. So we have a FODMAP cook-off. Small groups of participants will make the same recipe, but be judged on how well it turns out and how well they can explain the benefits of the ingredients in that meal. Our next activity was getting real with recipes. So groups of 2 were given blank recipe cards. They write down a recipe based on a certain meal period or event. I would encourage participants to use an event that is often challenging to navigate when it comes to managing their gut health, such as birthdays or parties or Christmas or something like that, and how they can best overcome that. And then our grocery store challenge. So like I previously mentioned, we are walking through grocery stores today that we are bombarded with food items, and we're just kind of not sure what's great for us and what's not so great for us. And so the key to success here will to be able to stay within a certain budget and find good quality items that support our initiatives here. So our pre-assessment was a 10-minute oral quiz to discuss how comfortable participants are with low-fat diet rules, low FODMAP diet rules, and meal prep. Our post-assessment here was to have participants again rate and discuss their comfort levels with meal prep, grocery shopping, dining out, and assess for improvements in knowledge and daily integration. Side note here, when I had done my interviews with my test group, the hardest part about managing their gastrointestinal health was that integration piece, balancing life, balancing their health issues, and navigating through their discomfort and their anxieties when it comes to going to Christmas, going to a birthday party. And I felt that this was a piece of the curriculum that we would probably spend the most time on. Human dimension. So this is where it gets a little more personal. Each participant will give a journal that they can use to write down how they feel mentally, emotionally, and physically throughout their journey, mentioning things like setbacks and successes and how they felt. Our next activity was gut health strategy mapping. So in small groups, participants would create a strategy map that displays how they are able to navigate their GI health and be prepared to share and discuss. I feel that when you are prepared and you are able to navigate those tricky situations for when you're traveling or you're just eating outside of your home, you want to have that knowledge base and that confidence within yourself to have that strategy in place. So I thought that was a really great activity. And then, of course, goal setting for the future. Each participant would set 3 personal goals that are time-bound, measurable, and realistic for their lifestyle. This would serve as a means to remain aware and self-accountable for their health journey. Our pre-assessment here was a quick guided reflection to assess their progress with a low FODMAP diet thus far, discussing things like challenges and specific improvements. Post-assessment would be to discuss their strategy maps with the group as a way to share ideas and boost motivation. I have found that sharing ideas is helpful to most, but it's important for participants also to know that maybe what works for one might not work for you, and to keep that individualism in mind here. My evaluation plan. So to break it down within our learning activities, the learning activities focused on adopting a low FODMAP diet while maintaining adequate fiber intake, specifically recipe development and tasting, smoothie bars, strategy maps, things of that nature. These activities also emphasize sources of low FODMAP foods, time management, budget adherence, and developing easy meal planning. Through all of these learning activities, participants can successfully manage gastrointestinal disease and keep symptoms at bay. Our process measures here, we would consider program attendance. So taking attendance at every session can determine levels of engagement and help identify areas where maybe we need to modify the program to see what was feasible for that specific target audience. Completion rates. Assess how many participants completed things like the meal planning, the recipe development, the tasting, and the strategy maps, and the level of detail provided within the curriculum to see how that transferred over to the participant. It's important that when you are conducting trainings like this, that people absorb everything that you're providing to them, and what they can recite will show how effective your training was. And then, of course, feedback surveys. So providing a survey to see how feasible this program was for the target audience and solicit ways to improve the program. Feedback is always a resource when developing a program like this, which then ensures long-term success and builds a more robust program to better serve this target audience. Our outcomes, so we're focusing on our increased knowledge of the low FODMAP diet, sometimes new diet programs or lifestyle modifications can be intimidating. And when you have that good solid foundation of knowledge, you are more successful. Adoption of low FODMAP diet. So measure how well the diet has been incorporated into their daily lives using those food frequency questionnaires, asking how often meals that they prepare include those low FODMAP foods, and then measuring their symptom severity and frequency to see if there are improvements or not. And then sustained improvement of GI health. So conducting that survey among participants to examine the frequency of flare-ups, overall quality of life since the intervention, and changes in inflammation markers on blood work, stool sampling, things like that. Long-term adherence to the low FODMAP diet. So this is the hardest part, right? That long-term adherence, that lifestyle change that allows for that intervention to provide that long-term success within their daily routine, and require feedback on any challenges that they may still be facing or how they overcame challenges that popped up over time. Our budget for this program, so we were thinking a community center. Oftentimes community centers have multi-purpose rooms, kitchen areas. And since this intervention focused a lot about food prep and group work, I felt that a community center would be best. I looked at local pricing just within my neighborhood here, and the one that I felt would be best charges a fee of $350 for the day, and then a security deposit of $300. I did use the recommendation of having like a teacher or a coach to guide this program. So roughly about $540 there. Materials, so you can see here that majority of the cost would be on displays and class materials. I think infographics, portion sizing, better ways to display printed nutrition labels, and then of course the food. So we're sampling a lot of food here. We're talking about high fiber foods, and when you can touch, feel, taste, and smell these foods, you need to invest in buying high quality food that better encourages your team and your participants to adopt this intervention. So the total cost was $1,900, and I felt that that was very reasonable and something that would be easily implemented or replicated in the future. Some final remarks on this intervention. I felt that the low-FODMAP diet that helped to also focus on proper fiber intake was key to improve symptom management and overall gastrointestinal health. Because when you are eating the right amount of fiber and you're feeding your gut microbiome, you're able to heal and you're able to manage symptoms better and just have a more resilient GI tract. And so when you have that continual focus on education, reflection, and ongoing support for these young working professionals, I think it's easier for them to sustain these dietary changes and improve their quality of life through the manageable and sustainable dietary interventions. And these are my references.